الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. Shahr Ramadan has different qualities and different opportunities. Shahr Ramadan is a great time to ask for forgiveness. Shahr Ramadan is a great time to do ibadat and worship of Allah, because in this month the actions are maqbool and accepted. It also is a great time to make dua and prayer. And we see today what is going on in Iran and Lebanon. We see in Gaza. And know that your prayers are heard. You are fasting. You are God's guests. You have fasted for Him. As the tradition says, As-sawmu li wa ana ajzi bih. Fasting is for me, God. Therefore, I will reward it myself. So you are the guests of Allah in this month. And everyone asks, what can I do to help? One of the first things and most important things is not to be indifferent about what is going on, about the dhulm and oppression that is going on, to know that your prayers are being heard. And from all the prayers that we can do, what is the strongest of prayers? It is the tawassul that we can do to the Imam of the age, to Imam Mahdi Ajallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, that we believe is protecting us by God's grace. And the fact that we are here and the followers of Ahlul Bayt are here is from the dua of the Imams, is from the protection of Imam al-Zaman. So hopefully we make prayer that the mu'mineen are in full safety, the believers are in full safety, inshallah, and are victorious, inshallah. Recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Tonight's discussion, and we see a recurring theme in the Holy Quran, as we have been reciting it more in this month, is the Holy Quran is a book that awakens us. It is a book that when we read it, it gives us direction. And one of the places that is very important for us to know that we will go is the Day of Judgment, the hereafter. So especially the short surahs in the Holy Quran, especially the verses that are the surahs that are from Mecca, are here to give us direction as to what happens after we die. What will happen to earth? In Al-Qari'ah is this chapter, which some say Al-Qari'ah comes from striking, when you hit two things together. Some interpret this as the Day of Judgment, the destruction of earth, for example, the destruction of the universe, when everything hits each other. Reminding us that everything in this world is fani. Everything in this world will one day be destroyed. But Allah will remain in this world. Our actions will remain. Our spirit will remain. And this is something that if you recite the Quran and throughout the day, you come to this conclusion that I'm not going to be here forever. And also the world itself won't be here forever. It'll be destroyed. So why are you so worried about the dunya? Why are you so worried about, the different types of grief you have for your financial obligations? You should focus, your primary grief should be what will happen to me after I die. And our teacher all the time would say every night of Shahr Ramadan is a night of Qadr. Every night is a night of destiny. What happens if Allah right now takes me away from this world? What do I have? What can I take for myself in the hereafter? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Al-Qari'ah. Mal-Qari'ah. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِعَةُ. If you have a Holy Quran, you can find this, or you have phones, you can look and we can discuss this. Hopefully we can read it and then understand it and hopefully implement it in our lives. So we said that al-qara'a means from striking. So it is a powerful expression in a shocking style, giving clear and direct warning. So therefore we see that this surah, some have about the reward of this, man qara'a al-qara'a amanahu Allah min fitna ad-dajjal. The Dajjal that comes at the end of times, who has, some of the traditions say about one-eyed. If a person recites this surah, he will be protected from the Dajjal. He will be protected from the Day of Judgment. So when we look at the striking calamity, and we see that the Quran, qara'a comes from the root qara, meaning to strike one thing forcefully with one another. When you hit two things together, it's al-qara. And it can be for this reason why they say a hammer in Arabic is, for example, miqra'a, meaning that because you strike. So therefore this can be either the preliminary cosmic destruction of the world, that the world is being destroyed at the Day of Judgment, or it can be the second stage, the resurrection of the dead. Al-qara'a could be the resurrection of the dead and the creation of the new order. The Quran continues, يَوْمَ يَكُونُ النَّاسِ كَالْفَرَاشِ الْمَبْثُوثِ. The day when people will be scattered like moths. Farash is the plural of farasha, which in Arabic today, if you ask Arabs, it means moth, butterflies, moths, for example. Some can say locusts as well. What can you compare, for example, that people can become like moths? What is the comparison? What is the wajh tashbih, for example? Why are people in the Day of Judgment going to be like moths? Some say here because they're going to be scattered. Did you ever see a moth, for example, around the light? It doesn't know where it's going. They're going in all directions. For example, the Day of Judgment, it can be this in such a comparison that people will be confused. They'll be bewildered. They don't know where to go, for example. Or you can say that moths rush blindly to the fire. Put a fire, a light. Some of you like to buy these little electric lights and bother these moths in your house, and they go in and they get shocked. They don't know where they're going, and you like that, for example. You like the sound of that. And you see moths do that. That's one of the things. They don't really know where they're going. And they run into these and get electrocuted. So regardless, things going without a clear direction. This shows us the calamity of the Day of Judgment that humans, you ever see when a huge, terrible event happens, people are just running in all directions. That is, al-qara'atul mal-qara'a. وَتَكُونُ الْجِبَالُ. Then we continue, كَالْأَهْلِ الْمَنْفُوشِ. The other verse now says, the mountains will be carded, colored wool. Today, when you think of what is the strongest and firm things that the Quran itself says are like pegs, and they hold, for example, the continents and plates together, so they drift slower, for example. They're one of the attributes of mountains. But mountains that are so firm, mountains that are so strong, mountains that today it takes the best, for example, to just climb to the summit of Everest or K2, for example, how difficult that is. The Day of Judgment, it says, there will be كَالْأَهْنِ الْمَنْفُوشِ. There will be like wool, dyed wool. Do you ever see how fluffy wool is? When wool is extracted, for example, from a sheep, something fluffy. Mountains become like fluffy wool. Manfush means it has been fluffed. So therefore, dyed. Al-manfush. Mountains that are like dyed, fluffy wool. Meaning that, we sometimes say in Farsi too, like pambe. It's something that can be very easily, for example, doesn't have much resistance at all. For example, mountains become like that. So this is the description of the Day of Judgment of Earth, for example, and these Himalayas, the Zagros Mountains, the Rocky Mountains, Sierra Nevada, getting closer to home. These mountains, or San Gabriel Mountains, will all be crushed, will be like wool. Nothing. And this illustrates the power of Allah. that all this entire universe, who He created, one day this universe will be all destroyed. There'll be nothing there. We continue with this. They begin to move, they're crushed, and there'll be dust scattered in the air. About one thing about the Day of Judgment. If I ask you today, why do I believe in the hereafter? Why do we talk about the hereafter? There's a big difference between Muslims and non-Muslims. Many people that are even religious, maybe they have different religions or denominations, they like to talk about God. They like to talk about God's love. They like to talk about worshiping Allah or God. But when it comes to death, when it comes to the Day of Judgment, people here, they don't like to have those conversations. But I ask you, can you truly believe in God without believing in the hereafter? Or are they, for example, mutalazam of each other? Is there correlation between one another? How is it belief of God related to the belief of the hereafter? If I believe in God, and I believe that God exists, and I believe He is controlling everything, right? Then how can I say that there is oppression in this world? There are crimes committed, as we see throughout these last few months. You've seen the crimes that are committed, and at the same time believe in a good God. You have to say, for example, if you're going to believe in a good God, you have to say there is a hereafter where justice will take place. Because if I say there's no hereafter, it doesn't really make sense for me to believe in God, because God has created a universe where people harm one another. And humans especially are spilling each other's blood. Those who have power, those that are vicious, are harming and starving one another. What kind of creation is this? So therefore some would say, Na'udhu billah, God doesn't exist, or God isn't capable. But if I believe in the hereafter, if I believe in al-mabda, the start, and if I believe in the destination where we're going to, al-ma'ad, then I can say that God is just and God is a good God. Because whoever has been deprived, whoever has been oppressed, on the Day of Judgment, it will be made up to him. There's some of the traditions that we have. It says that not that God apologizes, but God makes up for the poor. It says, you were poor in this world. I will therefore make it up to you in the hereafter. Because there has to be balance. There has to be justice. Or you were oppressed. You lived a difficult life. Some of even the traditions say Prophet Sulaiman and Prophet Dawood, because they had more wealth and capabilities, they had less suffering. Some say from the other prophets, they will enter heaven later on. Because in this world they had a very good life. They didn't have suffering. So God is going to be fair and just. Some of the traditions say, if you knew how good it is, not that we ever prayed to be oppressed, not that we ever prayed to be poor, but if you knew how God would make it up to you, you would only wish you had just bread to eat in this world. Because God said, oh, you're poor. You suffered. You watched while others ate. You starved. But now you will be the first to enter heaven. Now I will make it up to you. So this correlation between God and the hereafter is one that is real. That the only way to believe in a good God is to believe in the hereafter. And secondly, the only way that this belief in God will have an effect on me is if there is a day of judgment, if I'm going to be asked about what I do. If it's a God that just watches and doesn't do anything, just creates and watches, and that's it, and then we're destroyed, no hereafter, then how am I going to have fear of God? I'm going to have fear of God when you see in, for example, Surah Al-Zilzal, whoever does an atom's weight of good, it will be seen. Whoever does an atom's weight of bad, it will be seen. As Muslims, we are accountable for everything that we are doing. Therefore, these two pillars, al-mabda and al-ma'ad, the beginning and the end, these are very constructive for us as Muslims, that if I truly believe in this, I will never ever think of harming another person. Never ever think, because every second I'm being recorded. Did you ever, for example, know if somebody takes out their phone, for example, and starts recording you? You see how you feel like, hey, stop it. And they're like, no, it's public property. You're like, wait a minute, you're trying to think of the law, maybe make it illegal or something. So they stop, but they won't because it seems like they're right. Stop recording me because you get nervous. But right now we're being recorded. We've been recorded our entire lives. There's, angels are recording everything. Now, in some of the traditions, it talks about there is a grace period, like 7 hours, that if we do something bad, the angel will, before it's written, we have a chance to ask for forgiveness. There's a grace period. Sometimes, though, that grace period will be more. Maybe some of the happiness occasions of Ahlul Bayt, alayhimus salam, they say that time, there's more of a grace period. But regardless, we are being watched, and as long as you believe in God and the hereafter, and you are accountable, this will be very constructive for you. A person came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. He had a sunken face. He was very thin. And he comes to Rasulullah, the Prophet glances at him and asks, in what condition are you? What condition are you? And this person answers, I am in the condition of certainty. I am in the state of yaqeen. I have yaqeen. O Messenger of Allah. Then the Prophet asks, everything has signs. What is your sign that you have yaqeen? Many of us today say, I have yaqeen of the hereafter. Many of us say, which is, yes, but there's a difference here. We talked about haqqul yaqeen and aynul yaqeen, for example, to really feel and to feel the presence of the fire. So the Prophet asks, what sign do you have? And he says that I do not have sleep. In the days I have thirst. These are the signs that I'm in certainty. I have turned my back from all aspects of the dunya, of the life. I'm not inclined towards the world. As if I see the divine throne of the Day of Judgment, I see it. I view the people in heaven as a blessed state, I see them. As well as the people of hell and chastisement. It is as if the sound of the flames of hell is ringing in my ears at this moment. I hear the sounds of Jahannam. I hear it right now in my ears. The Prophet turned to his face and to others and says he is a servant of Allah, whose God has illuminated by the light of belief. His heart has been illuminated. So you understand now this type of belief of the hereafter is different. The first type of belief of hereafter that I mentioned to you of Day of Judgment was logical, right? Logical. That if God is good, there has to be a Day of Judgment. This is from the enlightening of the heart with nur. That people reach positions that they can witness the hereafter. And the tradition continues. The Prophet says, preserve this good state for yourself. Preserve it. Just because he sees and hears the heaven and hell doesn't mean that he will always be good. Maybe this could cause him to be arrogant. Maybe this can cause him to be astray. Then the young man asked, O Messenger of Allah, pray to Allah that he may grant me martyrdom in jihad. Give me shahadat, he asked. And the Holy Prophet prayed for him, and it didn't take long that a war happened, and he participated in it, and one of the 10th martyr in the battlefield was this young person. So therefore we see from this story, which I believe is in Al-Kafi, the book of Al-Kafi, you see that there's another way besides reading and understanding. One way is iktisabi, I read and study and learn, and I think that the heaven exists. I read verses of Quran, heaven and hell exist, Day of Judgment exists. The other is that I feel that it exists. Now, do we expect, maybe there is somebody in this, masjid that has reached this position? We don't know. I remember going to some of the scholars, and they were very, famous for these things. They would always ask, is there someone here that is going to have this position? And they're like, what? Can you ask me a real question, for example? Stop asking me these questions. I don't know, for example. But maybe there is. Maybe there's awliya of Allah in this masjid or not. But regardless, it's not as if You either reach this position or you don't. You can get close to these positions. In the night of destiny, the night of Qad, Shahr Ramadan, some positions that you have, maybe a few minutes in the day, you begin to cry a lot, you begin to connect a lot, and you feel the presence of heaven and hell in your heart. So this is a reality, because this is ma'rifah bin nuraniyah. This is ma'rifah bin nuraniyat, meaning that the heart becomes so purified that not only does the mind see and hear, the heart, as the traditions say, the heart has ears and eyes. The heart sees. So therefore, we have all these instruments that Allah gives us to understand. One of them is the mind. The other is the Holy Quran. The other is the traditions. The other is the heart. So therefore, at the end, when somebody rejects all of these and fights against Allah, well, they deserve to crash. As we mentioned, that in the surah at the end about crashing, how one of the explanations of hell is crashing, that is because we have so many tools around us to observe and to take light of and to be careful, but first alarm went off, I didn't listen to. Second alarm went off, I didn't listen to. It's as if a pilot has different instruments. He has, for example, his altitude, his attitude indicator, for example, ground proximity warning, different things, tower, approach, all these give him different types of warnings, be careful, be careful. None of it he listens to, then he crashes. In the same way, this is how we are when it comes to the Day of Judgment. We have the aql, we have the Quran, we have the hadith, we have the stories of the prophets, and we have the heart. And all of this is telling us that the hereafter exists. Remember Sheikh Ja'far Shushtari, he was once telling the people in one of his very famous pulpits. He used to go on the minbar 60, 70, maybe 100 years ago. Even the king of Iran back then would come and listen to his speeches in Tehran. He would say that I feel something, smell something that is burning. Something, I smell it, is burning. Something's on fire. And imagine thousands of people would listen to his lectures. People stood up or are afraid. There's something on fire. And then he would say, he calmed the people down and say that I'm Ja'far Kazzab. Call myself Ja'far. Ja'far Kazzab told you there's fire. You guys ran. I just said there's fire. I was joking, for example, in Iran. 124,000 prophets said there's fire and you don't run? He says, one person said there's fire, you ran right now. But 124,000 prophets said there's fire and you do not run? So therefore we have so many different instruments and so many different faculties to come to the truth, but it takes a person who is willing to, inshallah, reach the truth. Now we're going to read this other part. So that was about the Day of Judgment. وَتَكُونُ الْجِبَالُ كَالْأَهْلِ الْمَنْفُوشِ. Now we start about another part, another important lesson from this surah, and that is about two groups of people. Quran always compares two groups of people, the good and the bad. What happens to the good? What happens to the bad? So, and that is what Allah is doing, allowing us two paths and saying, which one of these two do you want to take? You want to take this path or this path? وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ, first of all, وَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُ, which is the good. And you see, in these cases, the Quran always starts with the good to encourage us. Not like you are insan, you are bad. Let's start always with the good people. وَأَمَّا, because I expect from you to be good. You have the potential to be good. The verse says, then as to those whose scales are heavy with good deeds. There will be those on the Day of Judgment, they'll weigh their action. There'll be scales. Now those scales might not literally be scales like we think it is, because even Ahlul Bayt, the tradition says, we are al-mizan, we are the scales. It is a way to see if that action, how accurate it is, how good it is, for example. And they compare it, for example, to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam's action, because that's the 100%. See, what percentage of this action is it? How much sincerity is it? How good is it? There will be those on the Day of Judgment like you. Your actions will be full. In Shahr Ramadan, you're collecting action. You're making dua. You're helping people out. Your scale of actions will be heavy. It says, and those whose scales of actions will be heavy. وَمَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُ فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ. They will be living in a pleasant life. Now, Ayatul Makarim here says that this pleasant life, I understand from this, that it's talking about the hereafter. Why? Because it says this life, you cannot be radiya in this life, it's hard. You can't truly be satisfied in this life. There's always an obstacle. Whatever you like, for example, if it's food, you like food, it takes a long time to prepare it. You have to go and find it, get it ready. It's a chore just to eat that food, or it's expensive. Or you like fish, for example, it has bones, you have to remove the bones. There's always something that you cannot be radi with. In this world, we say it is a world that can never really truly fulfill you, can never give you true comfort. And the tradition says people try to seek comfort in this world, but they won't find it. Comfort will be in the next world. Everything, when we look, even today, if you are, say, God forbid, you believe in reincarnation. You don't believe in heaven and hell, you believe in reincarnation. And they reincarnate you as the king, like, the best person, the easiest life. Still, when you're born, you have pain and suffering. Still, you're going to get sick. Still, you're going to have grief. Maybe someone's going to take over my kingdom. Maybe someone's going to take care of my empire. I have children. I still have to worry about the children. I'm always in grief and suffering in this world, even if I am the king and the ruler. So nobody is going to have Aishatan Radiyah here in this world for sure. It's going to be in the hereafter. So don't seek comfort. You want comfort? Wait for it in the hereafter. Then it says, obviously not this masjid, the other masjid. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ, and those whose actions are light, those whose actions are low, then now Quran says, what's going to happen to them? فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ. Then for them, it says means mother, where they'll be, the refuge. Usually mother, is a place of refuge. Who is their Their is Hawiyah, that place of sinking. Why? Because hell is sinking, is suqut, is a place where you fall. There it will be an abyss. There, the other ones will be Ishatin Radiyah, will be happy. The other one will be, فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ. They will be in an abyss. Their refuge will be abyss. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا هِيَ. And what can you know what it is? نَارٌ حَامِيَةٌ. This abyss, it is the fire that is intensely hot. So therefore, Quran gives us two paths and an option. And if a person's scale is full of good deeds, they will have Aishatan Radiyah, or else they'll have Narun Hamiyah. Now, at the end of tafsir, in this, it talks about what are then some of the things that I can do to make my scale of action strong, weighty. One, he says, one of the heaviest things is a tawheed, the oneness of Allah. Because if you do actions while you're a muwahid, it is accepted. Two, it is shahadatain. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. Imam Ali alayhi salam says in tradition, a scale from which the two testimonies, shahadatain, are removed, become light. That scale that doesn't have shahadatain is going to be light. And the scale in which they are placed in becomes heavy. When you have shahadatain, that scale will become heavy. Third, blessings and salutations and salawat on the Prophet and his family. The tradition has ما في الميزان شيء أثقل من الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. There's nothing heavier on the Day of Judgment than this salawat, because you are recognizing Allah, recognizing His Prophet, and recognizing His wasi. The last is sincerity. Imam Baqir alayhi salam says, whoever's outward appearance is better than his inward reality, his scale will be light. Some people outside, you see them, mashallah, look at that beard, mashallah, look how long it is, look how great it is. Who's his barber, for example? Or look at the turban, look at the amamah, for example. He looks very religious now that he put it on, for example. And you think he's very pious. But inside you see there's nothing. Vazish Khayri Kharowa, for example, he's in big trouble. But he looks, and he looks good, for example. The Zahir is good, but Allah knows about it. And this is his scale will be light. But the opposite is whoever outside, you look at him, he looks normal. But inside, he has true love of Allah. You don't know, inside he secretly helps people. He gives so much charity. That is a wali of Allah. Whoever is exterior, his interior is better than the exterior. Whoever is exterior, interior is equal, that's a mu'min, believer. You're looking good, you're looking pious, and you are pious. That's a believer. But God forbid, if I look better than what I am inside, I act better, then I'm a hypocrite. But if I am inside, is the most beautiful part about me is this beautiful spirit, then I will be a wali of Allah. May Allah, inshallah, resurrect us on the Day of Judgment. Those who, inshallah, their scale of actions are heavy, inshallah, will not make it light for us. Hopefully, the Shahr Ramadan, you will continue. And the most important thing I want to say is this: when you do good, preserve that good. Didn't you see the Prophet told this thin person who saw the hereafter to stay good? Because God forbid, it can be taken away from us. We can set fire to our actions. We don't want that to happen, inshallah. Ya Allah, we ask you, because of the honor of the Imam of the age, inshallah, expedite his return, inshallah. Give protection to all the believers. Remove oppression from our lands. Give us victory, inshallah. Have rahmah, mercy on our departed. Separate us, inshallah, from those that will be going into hell and narun hamiyah, inshallah. Make us those who have a very strong and heavy scale of actions in the hereafter. Forgive us in this Shahr Ramadan if you have not forgiven us so far. Answer our du'as and expedite the return of Imam Zawfi. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.